Let's get ready to rumble!
Hello and welcome to Netflix vs. Cinema, the podcast that tries to solve the titular battle of which one of these is better for money. And we come to you, we're recording this in a big week. This is the week in which Game of Thrones came back on TV. It's the week in which Donald Glover, or Childish Gambino as he's known in some quarters, decided to release a stealth film that nobody knew he was making. And it's also the week in which we have had what is being hailed as one of the greatest Champions League nights ever. My name is Tosin.
Indeed.
yes, it is. My name is Tosin. Over there you heard Shaun. I'm up in the Midlands. He's on the Isle of Wight. And Shaun, just before we started recording, you were you me about how, you hadn't seen that much this week, which means in your case, you've only seen 3 films. Because
I've only seen 3 films, yeah.
Because
Because, like you said, there was Game of Thrones, so I had to catch Game of Thrones. And I've watched a bit of the football this week.
Yep.
Which I have to say, the game I watched yesterday, that City Spurs game, it was a terrific game. So, so that's my excuse for not seeing too much stuff this week.
It's actually, it's a little to my shame, but it tells you a little bit about how it is. Because I'm usually a highlights kind of person. I just watch the highlights. I don't tend to watch live football. That I didn't actually realize the match was happening. I was totally unaware that the match was happening, and it wasn't until on my family group all of a sudden, because my dad's a Spurs fan, I just started seeing messages flying back and forth, and my brother was like, "Oh my God, this is a mad game! Dad, I bet you love VAR now."
Yeah, that's it. I was going to say, there's a lot of people that I asked someone at work who's a Spurs fan. I said, "So what do you think about VAR?" And he goes, "Well, I'm not sure." I said, "Well, you come through to the semi-finals?" He goes, So yeah, I think I know this is a film.
A film thing, and as we know that football and film don't tend to go together that well.
That's right, exactly. But what do you think of the VAR? I'm personally for it. I personally think it's a good thing.
Well, I personally think it's a good thing. I mean, it's quite frankly, it's. I know that there's people who are like, "Oh, it takes the passion out of it," but nowadays there's just so much riding on games that I think you need to get the things right. I mean, for instance, if we look at last night, you had everybody when that 5th goal was scored and everybody was legging it, everyone was going mental.
Yeah.
And your heart sinks when you think about the poor people who were so happy, and then a second later, it's all taken away. It's like, nope. It's like, lock your happiness back up. But when you watch it back, you're like, yeah, by the rules of the game, and you can argue whether the rules of the game are right or wrong, but by the rules of the game, it was not a goal. It was offside. It was. So it's one of those things. So, but I'm all for it, and it's funny, right, when you talk about that, because I think it's a very similar kind of discussion, or very similar kind of argument that's happening in the film world when we talk about Netflix versus cinema. There's kind of the traditional take on it versus what technology is bringing. And you have some people who are like, "No, we don't want the technology in it. Technology is just going to ruin it," all that kind of stuff. And to me, when people in football complain and talk about, "Oh, VAR is ruining this whole thing. What about the random nature of it and all that?" It sounds a bit to me like people who are talking about, well, the shared experience of going to cinema, sitting in a darkened room, and now we have all this technology and all this streaming that's messing it up because you sit at home and you don't get to. It sounds like a very similar thing. And I just think look, technology's here. It's going to get used. And
that's it.
Yeah, and you've got to figure out a best way of using it as opposed to saying it shouldn't be used whatsoever.
I agree, Toes. That's it. I mean, it's going to happen. It's going to happen. It's happening in a lot of sports. And it's going to save a lot of controversy as well, isn't it? And I mean, because now they got that really super slow-mo to see everything, can't they? Yeah. And I mean, you could be as a referee. Sometimes you can't see things. Not that be that close. Now you can with VAR, and then the referees take loads of flack. You know what I mean? For something that they probably believe is genuine. They genuinely made the right call. I have to admit,
I do feel sympathy for referees.
Yeah, for sure.
I do feel sympathy. But I think technology is going to come in and use it. And for those people who are like, well, we don't like technology ruining the randomness of it, some people are still arguing about that goal, which I think came off his hip. As far as I'm concerned, it came off his hip. So it's but people, you have people who argue otherwise. Yeah. But all right.
Anyway, I guess we better get back to films.
Yes. Netflix versus cinema versus football. And so but one of the first things I said is, as we said, this is a big week in which Game of Thrones came back on TV worldwide. But we have a rule on this show, which is obviously that if you're going to talk about a TV show and compare it to cinema, you have to have seen the entire season. And no one's going to see the entire season of Game of Thrones for another 5 weeks. So we can't really talk about that as something that we've seen at home. Which is...
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, but having said that, I'll say, good first episode. It sets things up well.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, but before that, we had this film, which was announced. It was pretty much announced Friday and released on Saturday morning. So there had been no previous what's the word? There'd been no previous publicity. There'd been no previous hoopla about it or anything like that. And it was
no trailers.
No trailers. Nothing.
No.
I think there had been an Instagram post featuring. There's a guy called Donald Glover. I'm not sure whether you know him, but he
No.
Well, did you hear about the "This Is America" video that came out sometime? It must have been last year.
I didn't. No. Yeah. No. Not really.
All right. So he's essentially well, the first time I came across Donald Glover, it was years ago, and it was on this thing called College Humor, and he was part of a comedy troupe. And I was like, oh, this guy...
I've heard of College Humor.
You've heard of College Humor, yeah. So it was...
Yeah, I've heard of College Humor.
Yeah, I used to subscribe to the College Humor podcast, and they had a video podcast, and they used to come through with all these things. And there was this guy on there who was doing some stand-up, he was doing some sketches, and I was like, oh, Donald Glover. I was like, and quite frankly, if I'm going to be honest, I was like, oh, look, he's good. He's like the one blackface in that whole thing that I'm seeing. Good, keep going. I like seeing new talent coming up. Then there was a TV show Community, and he was in Community. And I've been following his career more or less. He was doing some writing for Tina Fey on 30 Rock and all that. Then at one point he started doing music as Childish Gambino, and he's kind of blown up in that because he just does his own thing. He's the kind of person where you get the feeling that the music that he does is almost kind of like a side thing where there's something about him where you feel like he doesn't care if it makes money or not. And because of that, it seems that everybody loves it. And he came up with this video called This Is America, which has a lot of imagery in there about the way black people are treated in America, about cultural appropriation, about what's the word, police brutality and all that kind of stuff. And since then, I think he's gone supernova. So people are just kind of like, oh my God, he's great. He's a genius. Anything he does, we're there for it. And he announced this film, Guava Island, because you've heard of Coachella, the Coachella Festival.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah, so he's performing at Coachella Festival. He was performing at Coachella Festival on the weekend. And before his set, where everybody was just like, oh my God, what's going to happen? He announced that there was going to be a film that was going to be released exclusively on Amazon Prime immediately after his set. And it was going to star him and Rhianna in it.
Wow.
Yep. Yeah. So this is a film that the only clue that they were making this was that there was an Instagram post of the two of them in Cuba, and people were like, oh my God, what's happening? What are they doing in Cuba? Are they making an album? Are they collaborating? But he's gotten to the point in his sort of career, like it reminds me of a time when Michael Jackson was at the height of his powers, and somebody said,
right,
they were like, look, it doesn't matter if Michael Jackson releases rubbish, it will still sell, because he just got into that point where he was sort of the pop culture. He was a pop culture phenomenon, so it did not really matter whether what Michael Jackson did was good or not. All that mattered was that Michael Jackson was doing something.
Yeah.
And I feel in a way Donald Glover / Childish Gambino is at that point. He is at that point where at the moment it doesn't matter what he does. All it matters that he's doing something and people will flock to it. So they mentioned this film Guava Island, and I saw it when it was released on Saturday morning on Amazon Prime. It's quite short. It's about 58 minutes or something like that.
All right. Oh, cool. So it's quite a short one then.
Yeah, it's a short one. It's a short one. So it's not like this. And the same way with a lot of the stuff that he does, film wise, where I don't think he's fussed if it makes money or not. He
makes it for himself. Are they quite self-indulgent? Do you think he's quite self-indulgent then?
Oh no, that's the weird thing. I don't think he is. I don't think he is. I think he actually has something to say. I think he has something to say, and he's not being hampered by, oh my god, this has to sell, and he's just selling it. So he does like one album he'll do will be like a rap album, and people used to think it was just a rapper. Then he released an album that sounds like, you know, Curtis Mayfield.
I know Curtis Mayfield. Yeah,
he released.
Do. All right, rules. Yeah, okay, cool.
Yeah, he released an album called "Awaken My Love," and if you can track that album, I'll say have a listen, because I was listening to the thing saying, I thought this guy just rapped, but no, he has this album, and it's like Curtis Mayfield just moved forward a couple of decades, and so I mean, so he is. I think and this film I feel is a little bit in that sort of vein where he's made it, but he's not particularly. It's almost kind of like he was playing around with some friends, or in Cuba.
Oh, yeah.
They filmed it in like 4 weeks and all that kind of stuff. And it's for the story, for what it's worth. It starts off with Rhianna, and she's narrating this whole thing about a story of how she grew up on Guava Island, and there's this fictional island, Guava Island. It looks obviously it's filmed in Cuba, so it looks very Caribbean, and how her mum used to tell her stories about how Guava Island started up, and then this boy would come to her window and play music for her every night, and eventually he said that, look, I'm playing this for you, and I'm going to play this song that's going to win your heart. Then it goes into like this is all animated, and it's quite a nice animation at the beginning. It reminds me of some sort of traditional, African, Nigerian, I'd say, sort of paintings come to life in the animation at the beginning, which I'm actually quite happy with that. And then it goes into live action, and so they've grown up. I can't remember her character's name, and he's called Denny, and he's a musician. They don't have that much money or anything like that, but they're sort of your typical young couple in love, and you get to see him and he running around the island. He has a radio show. He goes to do the radio show, then he runs off to work and all, and you get the idea that there is this one person who is running the island, and he is a bit of like I guess a bit of like a Che Guevara type character without the military side of things, where he's just, and he wants to run a festival to remind the islanders of what it is that they have. He's like, look, we live in a great place, we live in a paradise, but none of us actually have the time to experience it or to enjoy it because we're all too busy working. So he wants to run he's using his radio show to promote this festival that everybody's supposed to come to. But the guy who's running the island doesn't want him to run the festival because he's like, if you run the festival, nobody's going to come to work on Sunday. And we need people to work on Sunday. And so it becomes this it becomes this battle of wills between the two of them of run the festival, don't run the festival, run the festival. Ooh, something bad could happen to your woman. That kind of stuff.
Right, okay.
Yeah, and in between this, you have the film tries to be a little bit of a musical. It tries to be like a musical. So these songs that Childish Gambino has released recently, so This Is America shows up on the soundtrack. Two songs, one song that I absolutely love that he did called Summertime Magic, it shows up in it. And so it's kind of almost like an extension of his artistic experiment, quite frankly. And I get the feeling that the people who showed up in this film showed up because it was him. And I think one of them, Letitia Wright, who plays Shuri in Black Panther.
Oh, yeah.
Right. She plays Shuri in Black Panther. She shows up for like 5 seconds. She shows up for but I guess in a film that's only 58 minutes, there isn't that much that you could do. But she shows up for like 5 seconds, and she pretty much said herself that once she heard that it was Donald Glover doing something, she would sign up to it, whatever it was, even if she didn't see a script. And I feel like that's a bit like what happened here. She was like, Donald Glover's doing something, I want to be involved, and I'll fly to Cuba, I'll go there, I'll film my scenes in an afternoon, and then that's about it. So. Because yeah, sorry, Karen.
It's funny with some of those cult directors, isn't it? That fans really, really like it, like their work. I think a bit like Wes Anderson or Tarantino or something like that. There's like I just want to work with Tarantino. I want to work with Wes Anderson. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's so like, you can understand why if someone really likes Donald Glover.
Yeah.
You know, it's and it sounds like he's got a lot of talent, a lot of interest. Let's give it a go.
Well, yeah. I think he definitely. I think what sets him apart from a lot of the other musicians or artists is that you always feel he has something to say. Like he has a TV show called Atlanta, which is it has episodes that go surreal, but it has episodes that go more serious and tackles actual issues that have to do with all sorts of things. And it's won awards and all that. And he's the thing I like about him is that you feel that he has a voice, and you feel like he has something that he's trying to say. So, and with this film, I feel like there were some people who were always going to just be like, yeah, I love it. It doesn't matter what the film is. They were going to talk about how they loved it. And I look it on Twitter, you can see people going, oh my God, it's so great. Oh my God, that scene where he does this. And I was not as enamored with it, shall I say. I was not as enamored.
Oh, all right.
Yeah, I mean, there's bits of it where I can feel, I can see, I can like, okay, yeah, I think I can see what they're trying to do there. The thing is that it isn't particularly polished. But I think that's part of that. I think that's part of it. It's because I know they said that part of the inspiration was City of God, the Brazilian movie, and you can see that, but the film is not particularly polished. There's some bits where the storyline doesn't particularly flow. They put the musical numbers in there, but the musical numbers, it's not like, when you're watching for me the best musicals are where you don't see the musical number coming, where it doesn't feel weird. But a lot of the musical numbers are just weird, and they just go off into sort of like little sort of interludes and all that. The central message of it, I think I see what he's trying to do, but I feel like this has the feel of a couple of people, like, when you get together with your mates and you decide, let's make something. And you come up with a storyline quickly and everything like that, because we're in here and we have this location and all that, and you're like, let's bring this person in, or they only have one afternoon. Okay, yeah, bring them in. We'll bring them in anyway. How about them? Okay, we'll bring them in anyway. I feel it's Donald Glover's film. He's hardly ever off screen in the 58 minutes. For instance, you have music in it, and you have Rhianna in the film, but Rhianna doesn't sing, and Rhianna, her part, she really doesn't have much to do apart from one scene in which I will admit she looks like a queen. She looks like an absolute queen in one scene. But besides that, she doesn't really have much to do. Nobody really has much to do beside Donald Glover's character, Denny. Letitia Wright shows up, and as I said, she's hardly in it. Nonzea, who is he plays Red, who is the big bad in the film. Who sort of rules over the island and all that. He doesn't really have much to do either. So nobody really has much to do apart from. And I feel like it seems like Donald Glover was on Cuba for 4 weeks, and he could have, this person could come in for 2 days, that person could come in for 2 days, that person could come in for and he just went, okay, cool, come in here, do this. This is what your role is. Come in here, do this. This is what your role is. And then they went off. So I like the fact that they could do this in secret. I like the fact they could make an experiment, and I like the fact that the technology has allowed for it to be, we're announcing it today, guess what, it's being released tomorrow. I like that.
You like that, do you?
Yeah.
What about the movie itself?
Yeah, I like that, but the movie itself, I don't think it's much to write home about. I don't think it's like shot in a box ratio, like the 1 to 1.33 ratio.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's shot in that box.
Yeah,
so it fits perfectly on an iPad screen. But so it's kind of artistic and all that, but I am not so sure that I'm not so sure that it achieves what it is that it's trying to do. So, but then again, I'm not entirely sure what it is trying to do. So, so it's weird. It's interesting. There will be people who will just be like, "Oh my God, it's the best thing ever" because it's Donald Glover, and especially, and I know especially now because black filmmakers are getting more of a chance to actually do stuff that expresses themselves.
Do stuff.
So there's going to be people who are going to be like, "Look, he's a black filmmaker. We need to support him. It's great. It's great. It's great." I'm not so sure it is, but I would give it a 3 out of 5. I would say it's worth tracking down and it's worth watching if it's still on there, because I know it was only free for like the first 48 hours or something. You might have to pay to watch it now. Okay. But so.
Oh, that's interesting though. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting, but I'll give it a 3.
Okay. Cool.
Okay, enough of me talking. Enough of me going on about it. Let's go on. So we're gonna go to cinema now. So that was first round opening salvo. That was from Netflix and Friends, shall we say?
Netflix and Friends, yeah.
Netflix and Friends.
A nice streaming one, yeah.
Yeah. And so we go over to the cinema, and you saw Hellboy.
I did see Hellboy, yes. Some, I mean, I'd heard some things that some people, different takes on it. I've heard some people this, that, because they liked the original Ron Perlman things.
Yes, yeah.
Ron Perlman, who played Hellboy in the earlier ones.
Yeah.
But I've got a confession to make here. I am not a major fan of Ron Perlman. I didn't like him in Enemy. I didn't like him in Enemy at the Gates. I don't particularly like him.
Oh,
the only thing I like Ron Perlman in was, if you go on YouTube, it's called the Bootleg Universe, and there's Tom Jane. There's like a 10-minute Punisher thing which I watch it occasionally called Dirty Laundry. So
I've seen it.
Dirty Laundry. You've seen it, and he's class in that. He plays an ex-vet, doesn't he? But yeah. I don't know. I don't know why I'm not a major fan of him. I don't know if he reminds me of someone in my past who I didn't particularly like. But I just don't. I'm not a major fan of Ron Perlman. I don't think he's that or that.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's me. So yeah. So I'd heard some things saying, you've got a different Hellboy. Because it's basically a reboot.
It's a reboot. Yes.
A reboot. Yeah. So the story is, the movie starts off way back in the past, and there's like this blood queen that has, and she's released this plague on England.
Yeah.
And then King Arthur, he's quite popular, isn't he? King Arthur, the King Arthur, the King Arthur of old.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because,
he sort of turns up. Yeah, go on. Okay. So anyway, and obviously he turns up, he's got Excalibur, and he manages to subdue these demons. Basically, this evil queen, the Blood Queen, he, chops her into bits and sends her to all over the kingdom. Sends her all over the kingdom. And then, so that's basically the story. And then you get into the film, and you see Hellboy sort of, doing his stuff, chasing someone and everything like that. Ian McShane turns up. He seems to be another stock actor these days, but he does, doesn't he? He's in everything. He was even he was even in Game of Thrones for a little while. He was.
Yes, he was. He was.
For a short time, and he's in John Wick, and he's in lots of other things.
Yeah.
So, he's like flavour of the month.
He's having a good time.
He's having a good time. Anyway, yeah. So what happens anyway is, you've got this Hellboy, and Ian McShane plays his dad. And he says, you've got to go to England because I've got this old friend. There's like a club, the Osiris Club in England, which I was old friends of, and they've protected the England from
the supernatural threats,
from supernatural threats and things,
Yeah.
And so he goes over there. I won't put any plot spoilers in. Basically, gets a little bit betrayed, and then it goes back to some of his origins where, how he was found by Ian McShane, and Ian McShane was his dad, type of thing.
Yeah, because
anyway,
for anybody who doesn't know, but from the title, we should explain that Hellboy is pretty much a demon.
He's a demon. Yeah, Hellboy's basically a demon.
He's big. He's red. He has a tail.
Yeah, that's it. He has a tail, and he has horns which he chops off and sands down and everything like that, which is quite so. And he's I don't know if you call him an anti-hero. I suppose you would call him an anti-hero.
That's what's usually that's the phrase that's usually trotted out when the people talk about Hellboy. Yeah,
Hellboy. Yeah. So he's he sort of helps. He fights demons, fights bad things, fight all this. And anyway, there's one of the creatures in it. There's a creature in it, a changeling creature that was changed at fairies. That's got a bit of a grudge, but he's gone and he's found these parts that he's going to put back together so that she can come alive and, again, cause chaos and plagues and all sorts of that, which obviously happens for a little while. So yeah, that's basically the story, summed up really, and you can imagine what happens with the rest.
Imagine it becomes an adventure type story where you go around and you.
It becomes an adventure, yeah, that's it. And so yeah, but this film, I went in thinking that I was not going to like it. I was thinking, do you know, I'm not going to like this movie. But I really, really was shocked even at myself.
Okay.
I really, really enjoyed this film.
Oh,
I
wow.
had a really, really good time watching it. Yeah. Oh, wow. I mean, it is quite... I mean, I think from the early part, because it's very, very bloody. It's got lots of whooshing of blood and, you know, dismemberment and all sorts of... So it's pretty nasty. You know, and I mean, serious stuff. You know, you see Excalibur do its work. It's pretty brutal.
Yeah.
But it's done in a sort of comic vein, you know. It's done because obviously Hellboy was from
he's original comic,
graphic novel, graphic novels. Sorry for you, So you've got all this, you know. There's lots of lovely sort of creatures on the peripheries. You know, you've got a couple of major strange looking. You know, you've got ogres and giants, and you've got all these little bug things. You know,
because Hellboy is pretty much Buffy the Vampire Slayer, but.
He basically is, really, you know, and he can take them, and he takes some punishment as well. God, he really, really takes some punishment, you know. So he like, you know, they get stabbed and shot and lanced and all sorts of things, you know. And there is quite a good scene where he does fight with some giants, which I quite like. And you think with me, you know, my seriousness with you know, even with fantasy films, if it's not done. Yeah. I actually met someone today who totally agreed with me. Everything I was talking about, the people in Batman, the thing. But he goes, "Yeah, I know what you're saying. There's got to be some sort of, you know, realism. There's got to be some sort of kudos." He totally agreed with me. A bit much. We even went back to like the Civil War at the beginning. You know, when you were saying yourself with the colour of the buses and things like that.
Yes,
and it's,
yeah.
It's those sort of things that make. So you would think me watching this film, I'd be going, "Do you know what? Oh, that wouldn't happen. Oh, this, blah. But anyway, no, I really, really did enjoy this movie. I thought it was great fun. It is quite bloody. There's a bit of swearing and there's some strange things going on. I think Ian McShane is very comic-y, hammy. He's very hammy, and especially there's a bit of.
The thing with Ian McShane,
I think that's what it's meant to be.
I begin to think that Ian McShane is just Ian McShane in anything he plays now. He's gotten to that level where if you hire Ian McShane to be in your film, you know what you're going to get. You're going to get Ian McShane. So,
Ian McShane, yeah, he is Ian McShane. He's Ian McShane. So yeah. So there's a bit of CGI at the end where he's like a ephemeral thing. So yeah. So I have to say, I really, really enjoyed this movie.
Oh,
and
right.
This was which is quite strange. Although then again, perhaps it's not because I actually looked at. I thought. That's interesting because some people have told me this and the other, and I actually did for one of the few times have a look to see on like Rotten Tomatoes to see what you know what people were saying, and it seems that the critics absolutely hated it. The critics,
that's what I've been hearing.
This was, absolutely hated it, but the audience thought it was really, really good, and it got quite a good rating. So,
okay.
So obviously, critics, we're supposed to, I guess we're a bit like critics, but. You know, we're not professional ones. So,
yeah.
Pretty much says a lot, really.
We're critics, you know? But we don't expect anybody to listen to anything we say.
No, that's for sure. People make their own thing.
Yeah.
So, yeah, this was a really, really good, enjoyable movie. Loads of action, lots of dismemberment and things, lots of, you know, shootings and just generally... Yeah. It was quite relentless, so the action didn't really stop. It was quite relentless all the way through.
I've heard that it's like an cool. R-rated film, so...
Yeah, it is. It's quite serious. So, believe it or not, people, I am going to give this one, because I did absolutely really, really enjoy it, so much that I may even go and see it again. I'm going to have to give this one a 4-star rating.
4-star rating for Hellboy.
Hellboy, which I know. He was not expecting that.
I was not expecting anything you said. Apart from the things I already knew about the film, and the fact that the basic synopsis of the film makes it sound a little bit like The Kid Who Would Be King, which we reviewed a couple of weeks back, because they go back to Arthurian times, and then there's this witch and everything like that. It sounds exactly the same. But besides that, I wasn't expecting anything you said. Like the fact that you said you didn't like Ron Perlman. I thought Ron Perlman would be like your type of actor. Because I thought
I know.
I thought Ron Perlman he's kind of like a throwback to the 70s gruff man kind of thing.
He is, yeah.
I thought you would like that, and so I was not expecting that whatsoever. And I know that, and the things I've been hearing about this film, I've been hearing that the English accents are really dodgy, because obviously they go to England and all that, but they don't have English people actually playing the English some of the English characters, and
I would say it's really exaggerated with that posh accent. You know,
Yeah.
if you could, tally ho, chaps. You know what I mean?
Oh,
That sort of
yeah,
thing.
yeah.
So, but I think that's how it's meant to be, because this is like a.
It's
the Osiris Club is like, you know, every one of them's like, do you know what I mean? All plummy
I know what you
all
mean,
stuff
yeah.
like that. So very, very much, and I didn't really notice too much on the accents. So that didn't really deter from it for me. That didn't deter from it. You know, I just thought it was really, really enjoyable, and I did really, really enjoy the film. And if I enjoyed the film, hence the high marks. You know, it was a real surprise, a really, really enjoyable experience, right from the get go, really, from the get go. And then I was like, whoa, this is gonna. I'm quite like the start of this movie. I was not going to, you know, go downhill. So.
well, yeah.
So it didn't, yeah. It was quite good, and there were a few of the psychic characters. Well, there's like a psychic, you know, the girl.
Yeah.
I'm not sure of her name. Do you know?
Sasha Lane.
And,
The actress is Sasha Lane, who you should remember from American Honey.
Oh, American Honey. I knew. Do you know? Thanks, Posen. I knew I'd seen her in something that I liked. Yeah, because I really liked that movie.
Yeah.
I knew I'd seen her in something. I was thinking, I know her. I was thinking, was it Black Panther? Was it some? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I know what you mean.
I'd seen her, and I was sort of thinking, wow, you know. So, that's good then. That's good. And the other chap, he's like an English civil servant bloke, and his accent is really, really like, you know,
Is it the one who plays Ben Damio?
Yeah, that's him. That's the one. That's the one who turned
Daniel Day Kim.
Yeah. He is really, his accent is just like, I can. Now people have said about that, I'm like, whoa.
So I've heard bits of his accent. I've heard bits of his accent in like clips of the film and stuff, and I was like, ugh, what's that?
Yeah, I know. Is he American or is he?
I believe he is American. He's American Korean.
Ah, yeah, that's it. So, but I was like. Yeah, that's huge. That is, yeah. So anyway, but he's in it, and you know, he turns into. I won't tell you what he turns into. I'll wait for you to be surprised. But I quite liked what he turned into.
All right, cool.
So yeah. So there you go. So a most enjoyable film for me.
All right, good stuff.
I was really pleased I went to see it, because I wasn't sure if I was going to or not. You know, it had been one of those ones. It was just that they're looking at the times, but when I turned up, I thought, oh, Hellboy. That's on in 5 minutes. I'll go watch that.
All right. Okay, good.
Glad I did.
I think I might follow you up on that and go see that then.
Cool.
Yeah, because
you can let us know.
Yeah, the first Hellboy, I didn't actually watch it until it came on TV. So yeah, I don't think I've never seen a Hellboy film in the cinema. But all right. Okay, now we go back to the world of streaming, the world of online streaming, and this is the film, which this is a film that I can almost see how this ended up on Netflix as opposed to being in cinemas and all that kind of stuff. Because this film, the synopsis of it, sounds very much like a very good film that was released last year. Yeah, but just before we go into that, Shaun, have you got your headphones in?
I have got my headphones in. Yes.
Okay,
Why?
cool.
Are you getting a bit of feedback?
Yeah,
feedback.
I'm hearing myself echoing.
Oh right, okay. Yeah, they're in. They are in. So
okay, cool.
Yeah, I can hear. Yep.
Okay, cool. No problem. And so this is a film that, as I was saying, it seems to bear a very more than a passing similarity to a very good film. For my money, one of the best films of last year. That film was A Quiet Place, and this film is called This film is called The Silence, and I can almost see. Like, imagine this one was going to be released by Paramount or something. Then a Quiet Place comes on and they go, "Oh, rubbish!"
we were pipped at the post.
Yeah, we were pipped at the post. We can't release this film. This film is not gonna make any money. Quick! And then Netflix comes in and buys it. I can imagine that's what happened. Even though apparently this was based on a book that was written before A Quiet Place. So, but you saw this film. What did you?
I did see this film.
Tell me about it.
Okay, this film, right? Okay, so basically, it starts off with like obviously these explorers, and they're hammering to this cave thing, and they you see little faces, but then all of a sudden there's this terrific noise, and all these creatures come sort of streaming out. They're like really tiny dinosaurs, like little pterodactyls or pterosaurs, I think. Like with little, but they're quite small. They're like bats almost. Mm-hmm. They call them vests anyway. So, and then you get to this this family and there's this family. One of them's a teenage girl who's obviously lost her hearing. She lost her hearing in a car accident. Convenient, isn't it? Because the people can do the sign language. So that comes in really handy when you don't need to make any noise, don't you? So anyway,
this is so unfortunate. I would feel for the people who made this film. I mean, I'm like, because it only looks like they just saw A Quiet Place and they went, oh, you know what? All right, sorry, carry on.
Okay, so anyway, and then the government says, right, we need everybody to stay in their homes, blah blah blah. So this family and another family decide that they're going to go to the country rather than stay in the town. So they go off to the country. There's a bit of a car accident, so they have to get out of one car and get into another. And one guy obviously makes loads of noise, so the others can get away. And they end up going to a sort of house in the country and so you've got this girl and her dad, mum, and they're like granny who's very ill, and a brother, so you've got these people that basically in this doing all sorts of things, managing to talk, managing to keep together and all that. So
essentially there's creatures who are out there, and if they make a noise, the creatures find you, and so they're trying to live some sort of frontier lifestyle where they don't make a sound.
Yeah. Basically, it's like, well, okay, let's not make a sound. And there's one bit in it which I think comes straight out of Hitchcock's The Birds. Yep. I'm sure there's a scene with that where they're outside and it's like all quiet and all the creatures are all really, really still. There's a scene in The Birds which is really similar where Tippi Hedren comes out and all the birds are just sat around and stuff.
Oh, and what is it, the one with in the playground?
That's the one. Yeah.
Yeah, the one in the playground.
But, yeah. So anyway, this goes on and all that, and they're out there for a while. And then when the dad and the daughter out on an expedition, there's sort of getting some supplies and stuff. There's like this cult thing that decide they want the girl because they think she can be handy and all that.
Oh yeah.
She's just like, no, you can't have her. So anyway, they turn up. These cults sort of turn up outside the house where they're staying, and he goes out. He says, no, you can't have it. He goes, oh, we want to. And some things happen, then it becomes a bit of a home invasion thing, A clever way they distract the people because they send in like a child strapped with loads of mobile phones which all go off, in the house. So obviously everybody's distracted so they can do kidnapping and stuff.
Yep.
I know that's a spoiler, but...
but you don't care.
So I don't care. So, yeah. And so anyway, this happens, and then there's like a rescue attempt, and people sacrifice themselves, and blah blah blah. And then they say, oh, we better go up north because it's cold up there, and these, so let's go up north. So they go up north, and it's sort of that's it basically. The end shot is them up north out, and then there's this little voiceover saying, oh, we don't know what's going to happen. We might have to find a new way of.
Oh, have you just told us the entire film?
I told you the entire film, Tozen. Sorry about that, man. I am really, really sorry, but I don't know what else to say, really. So,
okay. So
it's not really. It's not. It's to be honest, it's quite. There's nothing new. If you've seen,
especially after A Quiet Place has come out,
yeah. It's not really. I would think that if people see this, there may be some people that like it, but. I think on the whole that they would probably be fairly disappointed by it. And I don't think even some of the actors can really save this. You know what I mean? Who's the guy that's in loads of stuff? He's in the Hunger Games.
Stanley Tucci.
Stanley Tucci, yeah. See, now I've got a confession to make.
You don't like Stanley Tucci?
He turns up in lots and lots of stuff, doesn't he? Yeah, but he's a bit like Ron Perlman to me. I don't think he's... I mean, I know he was over the top in like the Hunger Games and stuff like that. And I think, was he in one... Was he called like? Was he in something like The Core or something like that? One of those films. So there was one film I saw. It might have been where they're in some sort of tunnel thing.
Going to the centre of the earth. Yeah.
I think he might have been in that one.
He might have been in that one. Yeah.
I was like, ugh. Anyways, and when I've seen him, he just doesn't really. So he's not. Again, he's not. He seems to be in everything, but he's not particularly one of my my
Welcome
faves.
to Nicholas
Sorry
Cinema,
about that.
Otherwise known as Shaun versus popular actors that Shaun doesn't like.
Yeah, well, there you go. I'm sure there would be a few. People can tell me why I'm wrong and everything, if because on the Facebook page and stuff and what have you. So that'd be interesting to hear those comments.
Personally, I quite like Stanley Tucci. I like Stanley Tucci. I think I loved him in Devil Wears Prada. He's really, really good in a lot of things. But I saw the trailer for this, and I kind of thought it looks like the TV movie version of A Quiet Place. It looks It just feels like I remember seeing the trailer for A Quiet Place, and even the trailer hooked you, and you were like, oh my word, that is something. But this looked like it's okay. It's kind of like the fact that in Quiet Place, for instance, you watch the trailer, you're not really sure what it is that these people are trying to hide from. You really don't know, but you're intrigued. In the trailer for The Silence, they showed you what the monster looks like, and I'm like, oh well, then that there's nothing to do. This looks like the version where they go, we have a problem, throw some CG at it, and
that's it.
Yeah, and I just nothing about it made me, especially because of the fact that Quiet Place was out there. Nothing about this made me want to watch it. So it's. Nothing about this, even though it has actors that I like in it. I mean, mainly Stanley Tucci. I almost said Stanley Kubrick there for a second.
Yeah, you nearly did. That was last week.
Yeah, mainly Stanley Tucci and Kiernan Shipka, who plays the daughter.
Oh yeah. And there was was it Miranda Otto as well? She was in she was in the Lord of the Rings.
Yes,
I recognised her.
She plays Eowyn.
She's not convincing. Eowyn, that's it. I really liked her as Eowyn. I thought she was really good as Eowyn.
She was kick-ass,
And so I'm not majorly in that. And then there was another film I think called I, Frankenstein a few years back now.
Yeah, I heard
it was
bad
I,
things.
Frankenstein, and she was like in that, and I thought, ooh, and so I don't know. So she needs to up her game. Miranda, you need to up your game, girl. Get yourself some better stuff.
I think they love her in New Zealand. But okay,
do they? Yeah.
Well, I think she's definitely Antipodean. I'm not sure whether it's New Zealand or Australia. I think it must be New Zealand. But anyway, so how many stars would you give The Silence?
This only gets me. I'm afraid it's a 2. I'm afraid it's a 2 for this one. Yeah, it's a 2. I think. Yeah, it just didn't really have enough there to make it original or. It just wasn't there. It just wasn't there. I don't think. In fact, I would say that I suffered it a little bit. I found it a bit laboured. But there you go. Yeah. There's been a load, isn't there? Another one like that, like you say, The Quiet Place. There was also the Birdcage?
Bird Box.
Bird Box. That's it. The Bird
yeah,
Box,
but at least that was
Birdcage.
Yeah. At least
Birdcage was a different movie.
Totally different film. Totally different. Can imagine that. Nathan Lane can't see anything. Oh my God, where is it? But anyway. So but at least Bird Box had a different premise. It was like, oh, you can't see, and
it did,
and it was like, okay, cool, this is interesting. The Silence seems to have exactly the same premise as, and it just doesn't seem to be done as atmospherically or anything. But anyway, all right, cool. Yeah. Now we go back to cinema.
Okay, cool.
Go back to cinema, and another thing in cinema this week is a film called Little, and this is. It's funny because we spoke about Shazam last week, and it seems like Body Swap is making a little bit of a comeback in sort of different ways. And the fact that this film is called Little seems to be a direct riposte to another film, a very famous film, which is also referenced in Shazam, called Big. And
definitely.
Yeah. So it's a film about this lady. She's called Jordan Sanders, and it starts off, you see her when she's in school and she's 13 years old, and how she gets bullied at school. And her parents tell her, look, don't worry, it's you get bullied now, but you're smart. And you know what happens with smart people when they leave school? They become the boss. And she's like, really? And they're like, yeah. It's like, you're smart, you leave school, you become the boss. And she's like, good, that means I'll never get bullied because then I'll bully everybody else. Then you see her when she's grown older, and she runs a tech company that makes software and all that. And she's like, the boss from hell. So we mentioned The Devil Wears Prada earlier on. And very much like Meryl Streep in that film, there's actually a scene where she's coming and someone goes, "She's coming!" And everybody in the office is like, "Oh my god, oh my god, oh my god!" And I have to run around and I have to sort of like, look busy and all that kind of stuff. Then she's mean to some young girl who turns out to be a magician and says, "I wish you were little." She wakes up the next morning and in typical body swap thing, she's now her 13-year-old self again. So the 13-year-old self that got bullied and all that sort of stuff. And from that point on, I mean, the way body swap films happen, you know what happens in them, whether it's 17 Again with Zac Efron, whether it's like, vice versa, whether it's Freaky Friday, they all follow the same basic, Big. Although Big is probably the classic.
One of the best. Yeah. I guess that was the start. Do you reckon that was the start of... Oh, no, Freaky Friday probably was...
Yeah, Freaky Friday was before that. Yeah, Freaky Friday was before that. I think they've been going on for a long time. I remember that there was one with a dog. Was it the Shaggy Dog or something like that, where a guy swaps with a dog?
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so and this is like black and white. So they've been going on for a while, but I think there's almost like a template that they follow. What's going to happen, and they're going to have to discover something to make them a better person. And when they discover that thing, they're going to revert back to the original self. That is not a spoiler. That is the through line of a body swap film. I mean, a body swap film.
Yes.
If a body swap film wanted to be different, it would just leave them in that swapped place at the end, which is probably what makes District 9 so good. The fact that the body swap doesn't get reversed. But
that's yeah.
So it's so you have this, and it stars Regina Hall as the grown-up Jordan, but obviously because of the nature of the film, she's not in it for that long. She's pretty much a supporting character, and it stars a lady called Marcy Martin, who is known for being in Blackish, the TV show Blackish. The TV show I really like. I quite like her as Diane in the show, and it also stars Issa Rae as her assistant. So her assistant is your typical put-upon assistant, gets yelled at all the time, all that kind of stuff. And you know that throughout the source of the film, she's going to realize, oh my god, my assistant is more than just someone I can yell at. She can actually be a friend, blah, 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 blah. All that we know is going to happen. And Issa Rae has a TV show called Insecure, which I really, really like. I really, really like Issa Rae. And I feel like this film wastes everybody that's in it. So, I feel like it is... Well, the fact is... So, a couple of weeks ago, we spoke about What Men Want.
Yeah.
And this is pretty much the same film as What Men Want.
Really?
Yeah, so what Men Want is... they went, okay, we have What Women Want. We're going to gender swap it, and we're going to make the lead a black female, a successful black female woman who's trying to get ahead in her job, and there's all these different things that are in her way. Something supernatural is going to happen to her, and she's going to have to realize that, maybe she has to make some changes in her life by the end of the film and all that kind of stuff. In What Men Want, and so with this one, you have Big, which was about white boy becoming into a big white man. Now we're going to gender swap that, and we're going to turn it into a black female with a successful business who has an assistant that she puts upon, and I'm like, and something supernatural happens to her, and by the end of the film, she's going to realize that, oh my god, if I'm a better person, maybe my life will be better, and then that's what's gonna, and the beats in the film are pretty much the same. In What Men Want, there's a relationship that she's trying to run away from but might be the best thing for her. In Little, there's a relationship she's trying to run away from but might be the best thing for her. The film is bitty. The film is really, really bitty in that there's some times where you can see it feels like they've been told to improvise into a scene, and you're like, okay, this is not going anywhere. That joke is just a bit too labored. And there's characters in this film, and there's some well-known actors, and there's the characters in this film where the entire performance is in the trailer.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
The entire performance is in the trailer. And I was like, oh my word, that didn't go anywhere. What happened with that? That just disappeared. And you could... It's almost as it feels almost like an improvisational piece where someone goes, oh, then we go here, and then we do this, and what does that go? We don't know. Anyway, we go over here, and it just, so it's bad because there's so many. I really wanted to like this film because I like everybody in it. The guy he didn't write it, he produced it, but he created Blackish, a guy called Kenya Barris. Really, really like him. He says a lot of stuff about he's like, what I was saying about Donald Glover, like someone who you feel has something to say. I feel like Kenya Barris is someone who has something to say, and so with his name on something, I would have done it, and I feel like with his name on it, that's why a lot of people went to do this. The fact that it's directed by, I haven't looked it up, but I'm pretty sure it's directed by a woman, and I'm pretty sure it's a black woman, and we know that we don't see. Well, we talk about not enough women directors. We don't see many black women. We don't see many black women directors. So there are all these things that I was like, oh please be good, but oh my god, it's a kind of film where I was looking at my watch before the end of the film. I was looking at my watch. I was trying to get my phone out. I was trying to see if I can sort out, like, send some emails, reply to some stuff before the end of the film, because I was just like, look, I know where this is going. Everybody knows where this is going. It's a body swap film, so there's not much more you can do. Why are you dragging it out? Why? And that was the thing. I was like, why are you dragging this thing out? And yeah.
Oh dear. Oh,
Yeah.
it's a shame.
And,
Oh well.
and there's some things there's some scenes that are shown in the trailer, which they're funny jokes. I personally found them funny in the trailer, but then when they put them into the film, they added extra stuff to them that just made them unfunny. So the only funny bit is in the trailer. And it's
I guess, yeah, I guess it comes back to trying to rehash the things, isn't it? Really, like you said earlier, it's just sort of trying to do stuff that's made before. So there was nothing really original in this, then, Toast. Nothing really original, you would say?
no.
No. Okay.
I don't,
cool.
I don't. I don't think there was any. The only things that were different about this are things that I think are going to date the film really, really quickly. So it's all about what pop culture language that they're using, what dance moves that they're doing now, and all that. And I think they are. Yeah. When I talk about what men want, this is probably a thing like a sort of The Silence and A Quiet Place thing. They are
yeah.
There are things, there are phrases, there's stuff. I was watching this film thinking, it's the same film. The fact, the lifestyle, the way they try and sketch out this woman and say like, what she's like. I'm like, it's the same film. So there's bits where they chuck stuff in because of it. She's 13-year-old and she has to go back to the high school that she got bullied at. And so they do a little bit about that, and she has to help a group of, your thing where you say it doesn't matter whether it's a fantasy or not. There has to be some sense to this. It has to make some sense. That there were bits of where I was going, hang on a second, how did they just do that? So in one scene they couldn't do that, and now all of a sudden they can just do that. Or in one scene she can't really get around, and then the next thing she can just call an Uber. And next it's like, but that no. So, it's like, oh, and then they bring child support, so you can see the beginnings of some ideas, but they don't get followed all the way through, and in the end you're just left thinking, I feel like it was a missed opportunity. And unfortunately I would give it a 2, and it pains me to say that, because I like everybody involved in this, and I really, really wanted this to be good. I was already planning to come in.
A shame.
I was planning to come in and explain how, it's black humor and all that kind of stuff. Because I remember when I first moved to the UK and the Empire magazine, I started reading that, obviously as a film buff. I started listening to the podcast. And I remember whenever a Martin Lawrence film was released, Martin Lawrence films, Empire just seemed to hate them. And Empire just seemed to sort of like have a go at them and talk about how, oh my God, these things are not funny, all that kind of stuff. And I used to be like, oh no, because we love them in Nigeria. And I used to be like, no. The best ones, I mean, like, it's kind of like a black humor. And so there's jokes about like, parents beating children. And in Nigeria, jokes about parents beating children go down a storm. We love them.
Well, there you go. See?
Yeah, we absolutely love them. But over here, it's like, oh my God, they're making fun about like, child abuse or something like that. And so I was prepared to, because one of the jokes is in the trailer, and that's one of the about a parent beating a child, and that's one of the jokes that gets added to in the film, and by adding to it, they make it worse. So I was prepared to come in and talk about this stuff. And when I watched the film, I was like, oh no, I can't. It's just not good. It's not.
Well, there you go. Okay, yeah. Sorry on that one.
Yeah, I hope everybody in the film gets a chance to make a better one. So yeah, but that's little. I'll give it 2 out of 5.
2 out of 5. Right. Okay.
All right. And now.
So what?
So you were gonna say?
Yeah, no, I was going to say, what's next?
What's next is you with Black 47.
Black 47, yeah.
So this is our final film this week, and this is going back to Netflix.
This is the final film.
Yeah.
Yeah, I watched this last week, but we did the robots last week.
Yeah.
Love, Death and Robots, so this is from last week. This review, which I'm glad I did do a review because this is a really sort of interesting movie. It takes place at the time of the Irish potato famine. Obviously, that's why it's called Black 47. It's because that's the year that this took place. So it's
I did not know that.
Yeah, it's so.
So is this 1947?
Not 1947. No,
1847.
18.
Okay, cool.
1847. Yeah.
Yeah.
So basically, it's a story of this ranger, this Irish ranger. He's been obviously working for the British military, and he decides he's going to come home. And he goes home. He obviously turns up in Ireland. It's very bleak. It's shot. It's very stark. It's very bleak. The landscapes. And he turns home to see his family, and he's not very happy. And then something happens, and he sort of gets arrested, and he manages to escape, and he causes a bit of trouble. He goes back home, finds some nasty things have happened. So he becomes a bit of a renegade, and obviously the authorities class him as a little bit of a deserter. Yeah. And so basically they go on a manhunt. There's a young lad, and Hugo Weaving, who actually plays like a tracker, and he was actually with this. They'd actually fought together. So the tracker had actually fought with this sort of renegade.
Yep.
There's a lot of Gaelic, a lot of Irish talking in it.
Oh yeah, cool.
And it's subtitled. That's good. Yeah. So it's it's like what can we say? It's just a really, really bleak film, but it's well acted, as I say. And it's basically these guys tracking this chap who does some other things, and things happen. So that's basically the story. As I say, I think it's a very, very arty film. It
sounds like this guy comes out and decides to be some sort of. Well, from what I've heard of this film, is like he shows up in 1847 in Ireland, finds out that stuff has happened to his family, and he decides to become some sort of like 17th century Batman.
That's it. A bit of an Irish western, really. I would say.
Yeah, okay, cool.
I would basically say it's a bit like a western. So, let's call it a western movie for other purposes, just taking place in a different location and a different different time. But I have to say, I like my westerns. Yeah, I like my westerns. And I mean the same with this film. I did like this film. A couple of times I thought it went on a little bit with some of the landscapes and things. I mean, it is beautiful. It was beautifully shot, and there's some really, really stunning places. But sometimes I think that can be overdone, if you know what I mean. It's okay. Okay, yeah, that's beautiful. And the Gaelic music plays, and you okay there? Yeah, and so you've got like. Really, really nice landscapes. I did find it a bit slow in some places. I mean, there's some interesting actions, and I think that it must have been researched really, really well.
Yeah,
because it looks like it takes place in that time, and it looks a really, really dishevelled place. Really poor with a lot. So that part of it with the clothes, with the where they live, and I mean that part of it, I think worked really, really well. So obviously someone had done a lot of research. There'd been a lot of care in this movie, I would think. Yeah. And with the Irish talking as well, because there's a lot of Irish talking. Mm-hmm. It sort of, I guess, it built up the suspense there. So this film, what I'm going to say as a whole is, I'm probably going to give this a solid 3. I'm not going to say it's a brilliant film, but it stands up as a solid 3. This movie. All right. It's it's quite watchable, and if people like that type of thing, then it's worth a watch. It's worth a watch. I wouldn't say it's for everybody, but it's certainly worth a watch, and it was interesting But if I would say it's a couple of moments, it took a little bit too long, laboured a little bit in places.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I think I was interested in this film. I never got to see it in the cinema, so I'll just to go find this on Netflix because, as I said, I listened to the Empire Movie podcast, and they have an Irish journalist out there, Helen O'Hara, and she saw this film. And she was talking about the fact that, quite frankly, she was like, yeah, it's not the best film. It's a bit arty. It's very violent. But she said that there was something cathartic as an Irish person about seeing this Irish guy going around and just sort of like, killing this horrible invading English force that was there right about that time. Just sort of just going down there, just mowing them down like it's sort of like old school John Wick.
I was I was actually I'm looking forward to that, by the way. That comes out on my birthday.
Or John Wick 3.
So 3. John Wick 3's out on my birthday, so I might have to do that, being as it's Friday. Oh, but anyway, back to this one. I didn't actually think it was particularly anti-British.
All right.
Not as much as I was expecting it to be. From my point of view, I think it was more just like it was just that, as I say, this could have been a West. This could have taken place in the Old West. So to me, it wasn't. I didn't particularly feel that it was anti-British in any way, even though it took part. And I guess you would say that the British weren't particularly nice characters, but you could get particularly not very nice Americans in a Western, couldn't you? And all that.
Yeah.
So from a personal point of view, I didn't think it didn't feel to me anti-British.
All right.
So that was my take on it. So
cool.
I don't know, but it's interesting. It's interesting that she should say that, from an art, because you'd think it would be. Well, I don't know really. So yeah, there you go.
All right, cool. So all that's really left to do is to say, we didn't mention that Sharon is away this week. Oh, we should have said that.
Oh, Sharon's away. Yep.
Sharon isn't here.
Oh, yeah.
For those who usually listen, there's usually 3 people. There's usually like a female voice, and it's Sharon is away this week, and she is busy having what do they call them? Bible studies with the Archbishop of Canterbury in a field somewhere.
Is it? I knew she was away somewhere, but I wasn't sure it was. Wow.
Yeah, she's away. Wow. She's away at a festival called Spring Harvest, and I saw something on her Facebook in which she said having a Bible study with the ABC, and it took me a while to realize that was the Archbishop of Canterbury, and I was like, I did not realize that he had his own acronym now. It's like getting down with the ABC.
Oh, there you go. So is he like the head of like all the different denominations of Christianity, or
no?
Or what? No, he's not.
No. He's just he's just the head of the Church of England.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
But other. Yeah. Okay. That's fair dues.
Yeah, he's just the head of the Church of England. But it's like a big happy lovey-dovey Christian festival somewhere. I never actually know where it is. I don't know where it is. People keep
I'm
telling
sure
me
she's
and
having
inviting me each year, but I do not know where it is.
I'm sure she's having a great time.
Yes, but she'll be back next week when we will be having another live show in the cinema where we all first met.
Fantastic.
Yeah, and I'm doing our very best to make sure that nobody comes and steals our microphone from us. So, until that time, all that's left to do now is to say who won this week. And this week, having a bit of a run here. The winner is Cinema.
Cinema.
Yeah, Cinema provided us a better time this week by 0.3. Of
0.3. So it's very close. It has been quite close, isn't it? We had a run where Netflix was winning. Seemed to be a few weeks of Netflix. We've had a couple of weeks of cinema. So the evening up, which is how perhaps it should be.
Yeah, it's evening up. So essentially, if it carries on like this, it will just totally negate the point of this show. But never mind. Netflix is cinema. There's no fight. All right, cool. So until next week, where we shall be live from not live, but we shall be recording in that cinema. All there's left to say is goodbye from me.
Yes, and goodbye from me.
We will see.
And have a great week.
We'll see you guys next week. Anybody on the Isle of Wight, come see us in the cinema. You know the one by Oh, good lord, I've forgotten what that bridge is called. That roundabout's called.
Coppins Bridge.
Oh, good lord, I can't.
Coppins Bridge.
I'm losing my Isle of Wight
You've been
knowledge.
away too long. You've been
losing
away
my
too
Isle
long.
of Wight knowledge. No.
Arr.
Yeah, the cinema at Coppins Bridge will be there from 6 o'clock. Come along and tell us what you've been watching recently and what you think about it. See you guys then. Goodbye.
Bye now.